Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you. Just a few weeks ago, I moved out of my condo and I moved back in with Mom. First time since I was 20. I'm back, Mom. I don't know for how long, hopefully not too long. I'll be okay. But obviously, when I moved, I had to use moving boxes, right? You know, boxes are good for storing things, containing things. That's what boxes are good for. So, you put books in boxes, you put clothes in boxes. But some things cannot be contained. Boxes are not good for containing spirit, water, truth. And boxes, above all, are not very good at containing the out-of-the-box Messiah that we serve. This morning, we're going to take a look at one of these out-of-the-box experiences that Jesus is going to lead us into. It's a familiar story. It's John chapter 4, a story we often call the woman at the well. I am going to suggest to you this morning that this story be renamed the scandal at the well, for reasons that we'll get to in a few moments. So you need to know a few things. First, Jesus and his disciples are traveling from Jerusalem, and they need to get to Nazareth, his hometown, about a 3-day journey, 65 miles or so, roughly from Santa Rosa to Ukiah, if you will. And he's going to stop in Samaria, Cloverdale, roughly. You can either go around Cloverdale if you don't like it. Jews and Samaritans didn't get along. There was a religious difference. There was an ethnic difference, sort of like Jews and Palestinians today. Same reasons. Religion and ethnicity, they don't get along very well. But Jesus goes straight through Samaria, doesn't go around, and comes to this place, Jacob's well. That's where our story is going to take place, all in John chapter 4. You need to know who these Samaritans are, though, that live in Samaria. Samaria is that region there in the middle. It's a city as well as the region. And so who are these Samaritans? Just for a quick refresher, they intermarried once the Assyrians came in 722 and took away most of the Jews and exiled and deported them to Nineveh and all over the place, sometimes referred to as the 10 lost tribes of Israel, because they never came back. But for those Jews that were lucky enough to stay, the Assyrians brought foreigners, they intermarried, and so they became a different ethnicity, and things started changing. Instead of worshiping in the temple in Jerusalem, they started worshiping at Mount Gerizim, which is in Samaria, and some other differences between Jews and Samaritans. The Samaritans only read the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, not the first 39 books, the whole Old Testament, and they only read their own version of those first 5 books, i.e. there's a lot more mentions of Mount Gerizim in there than you would find in the Torah. And then lastly, this is really interesting. Did you know that Samaritans are still around? There's 712 of them still remaining. You want to go meet a Samaritan? They're still there in the town of Nablus, West Bank. And here is a picture of Nablus. And there is Mount Gerizim, obviously, mountain's still here, right? Looks kind of like a hill to us, but it's about 3,000 feet or so. To this day, that is where Samaritans worship. Down here in the city area, that's where Jacob's well would have been. And in fact, Jacob's well is a place you can still visit today. It's inside of this church in the middle of that picture, and inside that church is Jacob's well. If you were to go to Nablus today, there it is. That is the spot where Jesus and the woman at the well met and talked, housed inside now an Eastern Orthodox church. But how it might have looked when Jesus and the Samaritan woman met, maybe kind of stonework type thing. Okay, those are Samaritans. Here we go. John chapter 4, starting in verse 4. Now, Jesus had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar. We don't know anything about that. We think it's the modern-day Nablus. So just forget about Sychar altogether, because you'll never know anything else about it. Just think Nablus. It's near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Oh, by the way, about 400 yards away from Jacob's well is the tomb of Joseph, the patriarch. Kind of cool. Sold into slavery, coat of many colors. So you can go to Nablus for 3 reasons now. You can see some Samaritans, You can visit Jacob's well, where this story takes place, and then there's Joseph's tomb. So forget Jerusalem. You'll go to Samaria next time. You're all planning your Holy Land tour. Verse 6, Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, notice John points out to us, Jesus doesn't walk 5 feet off the ground. He's 100% human and 100% divine, right? He's tired. And so he sat down by the well that you just saw in the picture. It was about the 6th hour in Jewish reckoning. That would mean about noon, because they reckon time from when the sun rose. So Jesus and the disciples would have been walking for about 6 hours, hence he's tired. Verse 7, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and we'll have to stop here because here's where the scandal begins. You see, if you were to come to draw water back in those days, you would come in the cool of the morning, or you would come in the cool of the evening. And typically you would come in a group of people, because typically it's a little bit of a walk. If you're coming by yourself in the heat of the day, you were probably an outcast in your little small town. And we know from later in the story that, in fact, this woman has had 5 husbands. She's living with a guy that's not her husband. She is, in fact, the town harlot. She is there in the middle of the day to avoid gossip, to avoid intermingling with her own townspeople. And knowing all of this, Jesus says to her, "Will you give me a drink?" Now, in our culture, well, it's fine. We don't even think anything about that. You know, a woman might respond, "Sure, I'll get you a drink." Or she might say, "Get your own drink, buddy. I don't know you." But in that culture, this would have come across so completely different. It would have been completely scandalous. So let me quote for you how scandalous and how offensive this might have been to most Jews. According to Dr. Greg Keener, Jesus here, just by asking for a drink of water, breaks all the rules of Jewish piety or Jewish religiousness. Men didn't talk to women in public back then. In fact, in some parts of Middle East culture today, men still don't talk to women in public. This was something that would be seen as offensive religiously, shocking. According to the NIV application commentary, not my words, theirs, no self-respecting rabbi in the first century would have spoken to a woman in this setting. Please note, not, there's 3 or 4 schools of thought of how to deal with women in public in Israel. Not 3 or 4 schools of thought. No self-respecting rabbi. No one would have thought this was a good idea for him to simply ask for a drink of water from a woman. I know it seems crazy to us. To them, this was how it was. But Jesus, being the out-of-the-box Messiah that he is, delights in breaking traditional, cultural, religious barriers that separate people. To put it in American evangelical terms, to have spoken to this woman at all would have committed the appearance of evil. It would be guilty by association. Could have been perceived as flirting with her. Doesn't know if she's married or not. But he takes a risk. And if we want to follow Jesus Christ, we're going to need to take some risks. He reaches out. And if we're going to get serious about our faith, we're going to need to reach out. And he speaks. The scandal at the well, I think, is what this should be called. Jesus, 3 times in the New Testament, is referred to as the stone of offense. Literally in the Greek, scandalon. In English, scandal. Scandal meaning religiously offensive. Scandal meaning shocking. Let me give you 5 reasons this story should never have happened if Jesus was trying to be a good religious Jew and just stay within the nice boxes. 5 reasons this story should never have happened. 5 reasons this town should never have gotten saved. 5 reasons why there's some problems going on with traditional religiosity. Number 1, she's a woman. That's the biggest problem. Here's a couple quotes from ancient Jewish rabbis on talking to women in public. One should not talk with a woman on the street, not even his own wife, because of the gossip of men. Ancient Jewish rabbi. Not a real good reason. Because of the fear of other people, you shouldn't talk to your wife in public. Strange reasoning, we think. Second quote there. It is forbidden, which begs the question, where is it forbidden? Not in the Bible. It is forbidden to give a woman any greeting. Jesus is breaking all the religious rules. All he's doing is asking for a drink of water. But he is getting scandalous, and we're only in the beginning of the story. So, number one reason, she's a woman. Second reason, she's all by herself, even more scandalous. And he's all by himself too, because the disciples have gone into the